Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7, and today we're just gonna do a really simple, really quick, really shotgun style approach to how to gear these three new summoning units. I kind of wish I could have pulled for these, but I already have Cerise Triple S and Landy Triple S, and I feel like that's pretty bad odds summoning that way, so I'm not going to. So there's gonna be no summoning video for that for me, unfortunately. But anyways, let's get into this. And before we do, our sponsor of the day, Diene Final Fantasy Opera Omni. Thank you so much for Square Enix for sponsoring this video. This has been a game I've been playing for a bit now, and a lot of our Discord's been popping off with it too, which is awesome. It has over 140 Final Fantasy characters. They're on their 3rd anniversary, which you can see at the bottom there as well. You can do squats, you can do all of the things. There's a login bonus where every single day you get a 10+1 pull, which is just so much, and this goes all the way through February until the start of March. There's also a Balthier special LD global first weapon, and I'm using that, and you'll see it in my main videos there where it just kills everything. I just use it every time, and it just kills the entire team every time. It's so good. I really recommend you try to pull for that, and you've got enough crystals to pull for them right off the bat too. So anyways, thank you so much. Download this game in the link description below for free on Android and iOS, and get all those Final Fantasy characters. So there's a couple things I want to say before we get started with their gear. Number one is I'm primarily a PvE focused player, and also Guild War offense and Guild War defense perhaps. I'm not really an RTA player, so if you're a really high-end RTA player, you probably know better than me. So this is more for the average player, so don't get mad at me if things aren't perfect. So we're going to start off with Landy, just because she's pretty much the best character that's happened to my account outside of Araminta and SBA, of course, because she's just been so versatile for me. I have her +15, and if you are going to be using Landy, I really recommend +15 in her just because of how good she is. She's just such an insane unit. I also have her Triple S, definitely not required at all. It's only 18% attack. You can get that with some better gear. But let's look at her stats. So there's a bunch of different ways you can gear her. This is the one I've personally enjoyed the most. And the reason for this is because it makes her just an absolute all-star in all forms of PvE, specifically when you switch her artifact up. I switch her artifact up a lot. And it also makes her just devastatingly dangerous in PvP when paired with somebody that CR boosts her like Oxlots. So obviously, again, don't be worried about my stats. If you can't make these stats, it's obviously okay. Scale them down, because the people you're fighting against are going to be scaled down as well, right? So mine looks like this because the people I fight with and against are very highly geared, right? So if yours aren't as geared, you're facing against less geared opponents, so it kind of scales that way. So I have 4,500 attack, a little bit of defense and HP, not enough, but enough to survive a little bit of AoE. 0 speed, unfortunately. Crit chance 100%, 350 crit damage, and no effectiveness or ER because you don't need it. And I'll go over the gear really quickly here. Again, this is some of my best gear, so don't be mad. And then for the artifacts here, we have her set up with either Portrait of the Saviors. You can also use Rosa Hargana is something. Rosa Hargana? Gosh, I forget the right way. You can set her up with a dual attack artifact, and also the new guild artifact as well is really great if you're trying to hit those MLDB sort of style units. So this is how I use her. You can also alternatively switch her up to a faster bruisier build, which I see a lot of people do. In Guild War defense especially, they slap on a guiding light on her and just try to get her decently fast. It looks like they're in like the 220-ish range with enough damage and HP to survive a hit or two, and because of guiding light, she's protecting herself, and it's been a really good combination. She's actually been bopping a lot of people in our guild. So with her in general, just be really offensive. Try to focus on stuff like your dual attacks, which are just so brutal. Her skill 1 just does so much damage. And as for sets, I like Destruction, I like Speed if you're going the speed route. Counter set I don't like as much, but it is an option for sure. And for PvE, like the Expedition, you've seen me do videos like that, definitely toss on like Rosa there just to get those insane amounts of damage. Also works just the same in the game mode everybody forgets about because it's only available once every 2 weeks. So now that we're done Landy here, next up, let's take a look at Diene. So Diene is really elastic as well. I've had Diene since the very start of the game, obviously when she came out. And I Mulagora'd this up to +5 just because I figured I would be using her so long that it would be worth it. You also have this maxed and this maxed, of course. If you're looking for bare minimum while using Diene here, I really recommend skill 2 and skill 3 max. But if you're a long-term Diene user, especially if you want to use her in PvE places that like the extra CR, specifically the expedition that gets double CR, pushing this up is an extra 10% CR when she hits on those stages, which is really fantastic. So that's why I did it. A little bit of damage helps as well. It's very, very minimal, but it's worth the Mulagora IMO. As for stats, right now she's on a filler set, and that's kind of how I use my Diene. Remember, I said I'm not a high-end RTA player. So this is enough for me. Just go over my gear, and I use her quite a bit with this obnoxiously bad gear. So don't be scared too much, and just giving her your leftovers, she will be fantastic as it is. As for her artifacts, I like to sit on either it's tough because I don't use her as much, but something like Rod of Amaryllis, Celestine, if you're in certain situations that require your healing to be done when you're auto attacking and your skills are on cooldown, or your silence. Magahara's Tome as well is another option. There's tons of options for her. Wondrous Potion possibly as well, but I really like the ones that help her healing because her healing is just not so great without them. So you're really focusing on a couple things here, 3 things specifically, and that's speed, health, and defense IMO. All of these are really going to help her out for the PvE aspect and like the Guild War offense aspect. And if you're using her in situations where you think she's going to get debuffed as well, you're really going to need a ton of effect resistance as well. So you're going to have to drop that speed, you're going to have to drop that defense at HP, because that's the only way you're going to get that ER. And if you are building your healers for ER, make sure you check out the ER calculator to see if it's worth it, because right now I have 70 ER and that's not really worth it to me, because any of the debuffers are still going to debuff her, but it will help a little bit against random defense breaks from people that don't have any effectiveness, right? So that's why I have her sitting at 70. But if I was to gear her more for ER, she'd probably be sitting at like 170, 180. She'd be about the same speed and probably be a little less tanky. And obviously, the gear cap is way higher when you're focusing on ER. So let's hit up the third. Next up is one of the best girls in the game, Cerise, and she is just a speedster. I love Cerise so much. Love her design, I love her character, it's all great. The hair is just 10 out of 10. I have her at +5, +3, +4, and I'm probably gonna max this out. In fact, I'm not sure why I don't have this maxed out. She's one of my favorite characters. Yeah, let's max this out. Do I have the stuff? It's damage and it's not really worth it, but because I just love her so much, there's no reason for me not to do this. I've really been just going all in on the characters I super love. So there, fixed. She's now +15. Okay, so as for her Mulagora, you definitely want this up to +4. This gives you that combat readiness boost, and she goes a ton, so it's definitely worth it. This one you only need up to -1 cooldown. You don't need the damage unless you're a doofus like me. And then for skill 3, you need +4 for that extra effect chance. Otherwise, you're going to be missing an extra 15% on top of the other 15%. So that's not a good thing. These are my stats currently. The idea behind Cerise is just to go as fast as possible with as much effectiveness as possible, and then some tankiness aside from that as well. I'm sitting on pretty fantastic gear. This is some of my best gear I have, so again, don't be discouraged. Like I said, I need 289 because I'm fighting people at ridiculously high speeds, and even this is kind of slow for where I'm at. But you might not if you're at a lower rank of PvP or Guild War or something like that, because you're fighting people who are less fast, right? So keep that in mind as we go forward. So honestly, 141 effectiveness is not really high enough for me. I'd like to get that number higher. I just couldn't get it higher while being this fast, and I also really like the opportunity of having her tanky enough to take a couple hits. As for artifacts, you have a bunch of options for her. I personally really enjoy Miss Confit. Maybe it's because I don't have Guiding Light yet, but I really like the opportunity of just dropping in a defense break here and mashing it in with a dual attack and just destroying somebody randomly. I think that's a really easy way to get Guild War defense wins just out of the blue. You never know when she hits that defense break and somebody just dies because they're not expecting it. Other ways you can really build her, I'm trying to think. I don't really think that there's many other ways. She's not really used in PvE because, of course, the game does not let you really use stuff like Restrict in PvE. But I have been using her every now and then just because with how fast she goes, how many dual attacks she gets, and she brings defense break because of Miss Confit here, she actually gets quite a bit of damage in PvE. So I've been using her there as well just because she's got my best gear, or close to my best gear. So I'm not sure what else to say about her. You want to get her as fast as possible. Oh, right. I'm triple S as well, so I'm kind of cheating there with my stats. So with this gear, I'd be down to like 110 effectiveness. So that's definitely helping me out. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to say. I hope I gave you a little bit of light on these units, although it's probably pretty obvious how to build them. The only really difficult one is Landy, and that's really depending on how you want to use her, not so much as what's best for her. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And again, I really recommend downloading Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia in the link description below. I've been really enjoying it. And honestly, Discord has just been great. They've been helping me out and everything. So have a wonderful day. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe as always, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.